Right now on Upfront.
A united front.
And a very special thank you to the extraordinary people of Milwaukee.
Former President Donald Trump in Milwaukee accepting the Republican nomination for president. Trump's first major public remarks since last weekend's assassination attempt.
I'm absolutely thrilled, exhilarated, and so moved by your speech.
This weekend, your backstage pass inside the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee on the convention floor with Wisconsin's delegation.
Thank you so much for bringing this convention to the greatest state in America.
And the exclusive behind-the-scenes interviews.
What should we anticipate?
I think it's going to be very different.
All this as top Democrats are now urging President Biden to drop out. Growing concerns among Democrats he can win.
We're in a moment of enormous anxiety.
The pressure from his own party. Preparations for the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Biden campaign national spokesperson Kevin Munoz with us exclusively. The latest fast-moving developments just moments away.
This is Upfront with Jaron Jordan and political director Matt Smith.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Several major developments as we come on this weekend, and we're going to get to it all. Those growing calls from top Democrats for President Joe Biden to drop out of the race, including now from Wisconsin Congressman Mark Pocan, the first Wisconsin Democrat to publicly do so.
Pocan joining several House Democrats Friday in a statement saying, quote, "It is now time for you to pass the torch to a new generation of Democratic leaders," adding, "We must face the reality that widespread public concerns about your age and fitness are jeopardizing what should be a winning campaign," end quote. Vice President Kamala Harris will be in Milwaukee Tuesday, a campaign official tells us. And here in Milwaukee, the end of the Republican National Convention. Former President Donald Trump officially accepting the Republican nomination for president just days after that assassination attempt last weekend.
Madam Secretary, the great state of Wisconsin proudly casts all of its 41 votes for Donald J. Trump.
Day one of the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, the near-instant roll call, Republicans solidifying their official nomination.
41 votes, front row seat here.
Yeah, it's terrific being front and center at this convention. It's been a huge project for us, of course, to bring this convention to Milwaukee.
And just as the roll call was ongoing, former President Donald Trump officially posting on social media his vice presidential pick, freshman Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, this moment not even 48 hours after the assassination attempt in Pennsylvania.
Can I ask you real quick the importance of the VP pick here today in Milwaukee and how your dad's doing?
My dad's doing great. He's doing well. Obviously, crazy, somber moment, but it's been an important couple of days. I think there's been a lot of reflection. I think we're just incredibly blessed. The VP pick, I couldn't be happier. I don't think it's a secret that that's sort of been my guy for quite some time, and he's done an incredible job in the United States Senate. He articulates the message so well. He even goes into sort of enemy territory with the media and can do that better than a lot of people on our side can do, even with a hometown crowd. But I think his background, his story, when you're talking about the Rust Belt, this is going to be a Rust Belt election. I think Wisconsin's going to play such a critical role in that. Michigan's going to be a critical role in that. Pennsylvania, I mean, that's his battleground. That's his home. Those are his people. So beyond his talents, beyond his intelligence, beyond his business acumen, and frankly what he's accomplished already as a first-term senator, I couldn't be happier with the pick.
The phone calls happening that Monday in Milwaukee. Senator Marco Rubio, North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, the other finalists, both in Milwaukee in an almost reality TV show like Build Up.
You mentioned you talked to him Monday. I'm assuming that was the call about the vice presidential pick. How did that go down?
Well, President Trump is, as you know, he's a gracious person. He said incredibly nice things about Catherine and I throughout the last 6 months, and he was super positive in the call as well when we talked, and he did start the phone call by saying, "Hello, Mr. Secretary." So it was it's a great way for him to break the ice and sort of indicate that, hey, I'm going in a different direction.
Mr. Secretary of what?
Didn't say, and that's the fun part, because lots of different ideas have been tossed out, but I've been clear all along that we were never doing this for a cabinet position.
If he asks, will you accept a cabinet position?
Well, I think it depends a little bit on which one. As a private sector guy my whole life, there's a lot of different options. We want to make a difference.
The week featuring Trump's former rivals, both in his vice presidential pick and coming off the Republican presidential primary.
What is your message going to be on the stage?
My message is going to center on national unity, but it's going to be from a different angle. I don't believe in sort of fake AstroTurf-style national unity. I believe in the real thing. And I believe in authenticity and acknowledging deep-seated disagreements, but at the same time recognizing that we're united around the principle of all Americans still having the right to disagree and still be fellow citizens rather than enemies at the end of it. So
is JD the right pick for VP?
I think he is. I think he's going to be an outstanding VP. Yeah.
Vivek Ramaswamy, Governor Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, all taking the stage to publicly back Trump.
We have Nikki Haley, we have Governor DeSantis. What does that say about the state of this party?
That they're forgiving and that we recognize that we need to be united because we're up against some pretty awful competition.
What are your thoughts on the VP pick?
Well, I think it's a confident pick. I mean, obviously, Trump wants someone that has his vision. Hey, and he's young and fun, so I think that's going to work well. And he comes from nothing. I think he's going to work really well in the Midwest, and it's going to come down to 3 states: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania.
What does tonight mean with Nikki Haley, with Ron DeSantis, with
well,
all?
I mean, it shows, first of all, Vance was a Trump skeptic in 2016, and he's come around. And obviously DeSantis and Nikki Haley were skeptics during the primary, so maybe the theme of unity will continue tonight.
What does the J.D. Vance selection do to key states like Wisconsin?
Oh, I think it puts it totally in play. I mean, you think about JD's life, being raised by his grandmother, families that have had addictions, served in the military and Marines, wrote a best-selling book, knows economics. I mean, he really reaches these swing states.
Do those Republicans who are not on board yet with Trump, does JD help with that?
I think JD reaches out, but remember, Trump puts a whole team together. You got Nikki Haley out here tonight. You got Ron DeSantis. You've got the Teamsters speaking, never happened before. So I think this is a more open party than at any given time.
The shift, the Trump campaign said, would highlight party unity after Saturday's assassination attempt. Trump making his first public appearance Monday night, a bandage over his ear that would remain all week. Speeches being rewritten, including Senator Ron Johnson's.
I saw some reports about your speech last night. Did you write a new second speech that didn't get loaded into the teleprompter? Is that what happened? Or
No,
explain what happened?
I made modifications. So right after Welcome to Wisconsin, I was going to say we meet at a somber moment in history. And I hope everybody heeds President Trump's call to unite, be strong, be determined. And because we have to unify and heal this nation. That was a paragraph I added. I get up there, I go, welcome Wisconsin, and it just hops right into 170 years ago. So there was a line I was going to cut out. Didn't get cut out, and I modified it.
So Democrats.
Yeah, what I said is the Democrat agenda and policies are a clear and present danger to this country. That was just going to be gone, and it was there. And I didn't know how to get by it. And have teleprompter go. I don't use teleprompters. When I speak, it's extemporaneous, but here you have to use a teleprompter, and I understand that. And the fact of the matter, so they loaded my first draft in there. They never loaded in the revision.
All this is behind the scenes growing outrage over the Secret Service response in Pennsylvania. Cell phone video from Senator Marsha Blackburn confronting the Secret Service director inside Fiserv Forum.
On the call. Stonewalling attempt. You owe the people answers.
House Majority Leader Steve Scalise alongside Trump in the box one night, who himself was shot during a congressional baseball practice.
Quickly, have you talked to former President Trump? How is he doing from your perspective?
He's been doing great. You saw him upbeat last night. I was so glad to see that he did well after what could have been a very, just life-shattering tragedy. So, we exchanged back and forth. I mean, he came to the hospital the night I was shot, and it was just always so wonderful to me and my family and my recovery. And, I'm glad he's doing well. And I think, we're going to see a different speech from him Thursday night. He's already talked about that. I think a different tone, kind of a more elevated posture that I think a lot more people are looking at him now that might have written him off before that are going to give him a second look.
What do you think of the Secret Service response? Should the Secret Service director be fired?
We've got a lot of questions. Monday we're going to have a hearing, starting Monday when the House Oversight Committee, the House Homeland Security Committee is already going to be having hearings as well. And there are a lot more questions than answers. I have real serious concerns about the director of the Secret Service. She just made some comments today that, they wondered about the rooftop, that it was too hard to maneuver up there. Well, a 20-year-old was able to maneuver it just fine. We just need to see her, is she focused on the wrong things and not her main mission, and that is to keep the current president and former presidents of the United States safe and secure. That's our job. I wonder if she's been focused on that lately.
The week building up to Thursday night. The campaign promising Trump had rewritten his speech to focus on unity. Trump taking the stage in Milwaukee, an hour-and-a-half address, a record for a convention, and a historic moment for Wisconsin and Milwaukee.
Is this convention different than other ones?
Oh, absolutely. I've never been at a convention where everybody's so unified. Everybody is so excited. Everybody feels like we're going to win. We're going to go in a new direction. This is an exciting time for America.
You know how close this state is. Does this do anything to move the needle for those undecided voters?
Every bit does. Every bit does. But the work's not yet done. The Biden-Harris campaign has a huge financial advantage. They're going to need every penny of that to offset all the damage done in the state when it comes to affordability, safety, and security concerns. But he got the enthusiasm he needed out of this convention.
The finale playing out in real time on live TV.
You've been to many conventions before. What does this ending to this 2024 convention mean for Republicans? It sure looked united, at least in this building tonight.
Yeah, it really is united. One of the interesting things, Matt, is that usually conventions, there's kind of a crescendo over the days to a big day, but every day was a big day at this convention. Of course, President Trump and the senator coming out on Monday, and it was very, very important to show unity on the front end.
Watch your head.
Yeah,
we're attempting to get the sign down. Is this what happens when the convention officially comes to a close?
Yeah, this is defined as a Republican riot, and
does that signify the end?
Yeah, no, I guess that's the end of the convention.
All right, now the attention, of course, dramatically shifting to the Democratic National Convention in Chicago in August.
Coming up, the increasing calls from top Democrats for President Joe Biden to drop out of the race, now just weeks ahead of the Democratic National Convention in Chicago.
Biden campaign national spokesperson Kevin Munoz with us exclusively next.